So at this point, you've seen the benefits of using a rack rental system. You've decided that you want to use INE's rack rental system. You've seen all the racks are available to you, and you've selected one based on the topology that best suits your needs. So now, how do you actually schedule time on this rack so you can start working on it? And that's what I'm going to talk about in this particular video, which is viewing the rack availability. Is the rack going to be available when you want to use it? And how do you actually schedule your time? So let's talk about this. Now let me take a step back here for a moment. And some of these racks are used by our students when we actually have live instructor-led boot camps. For example, whenever I host a CCNA or a CCNP boot camp here in the Research Triangle Park of North Carolina, the students that come to my classes have these racks reserved for them for the entire 5 or 7 days of the boot camp, which means that the CCNA and CCNP rack rentals would be less available during that week while a boot camp is being held in progress. So how would you see that in advance? Well, let's go ahead and go through here. I'm going to expand this for you. Okay, so let's take an example of a rack that I know is very used, very popular, which would be our data center racks. Let's see here. Collaboration. Well, it says coming soon, but let's go ahead and just check this out right now and just see what we have. Actually, let's go to the collaboration rack. I don't want to check on a rack that says coming soon, collaboration. So if you want to see if a rack is going to be available, let's say that you want to practice this coming weekend, or you know that next Wednesday I'm going to have some time available from 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So you would click right here on the schedule button. So I'll click on that. And then the website comes up and you say, okay, so when am I thinking of doing this? Well, maybe I'm thinking of doing this next Tuesday, December 6th, and I want to start I'm going to do it as soon as I get home from work. So I'm going to start it at 6 o'clock p.m. All right. And then I want to go I want to end on December 6th at, let's say, I'll do it for an hour from 6 until 7 p.m. Okay, so now I've got my date and my time here. Just click on search. And if it's available, look at this, it'll say book, right? So if this was not available, if all the racks in this particular topology were used up, I would not get the booking option. So this tells me that right now, okay, for that 1 hour, I can book it and it will decrement, it'll take away 8 tokens from my token balance. I believe the hours here, the time frame should be in your local time. So right now, this is Eastern time for me. But if you were, in France and doing this, it should automatically adjust to whatever the time frame is of where you are locally. Actually, no, it says right here, start date GMT -5. So that's for me. If you do this yourself, and you can practice this right now, if you try scheduling a rack and just seeing, it should say, GMT -7 or GMT +2, depending on wherever you are. But it should automatically adjust for wherever you are logging in locally. And that's all based on your members account. Remember, in order to access this, you have to be an INE member. And it's free to be an INE member. I mean, clearly you're watching this because you're an INE member. Well, when you sign up as an INE member, one of the things I believe it asks you is where you're located. So it should do it based on that, or it might do it based on your actual local time clock on your PC. But either way, this should be locally relevant to you. Now, there's another way you can do this as well. You can click on Calendar View. See the button up here that says Calendar View? You can click on that. And actually, this actually shows you. So you can see here that today, on December 2nd, all the way through until about 3:30 in the afternoon next Monday, these collaboration racks are fully booked. So I would not be able to practice on these racks even if I wanted to until Monday afternoon. And then they become available. And then I can click on Next. Take a look at the next week. Okay, it looks like there's racks available. I can keep going. And you can see here as you go through here, it looks like the availability is pretty good on these racks. You can do the same thing on the CCNA racks. CCNA racks are pretty much typically available. I can't really think of a time when you're going to jump on here. Let's look on calendar view, and they will not be available. They should be available pretty much 24/7. Okay, well, you can see here that some of the racks are going to be booked starting on Monday the 12th, and that's because I actually have a CCNA boot camp. I have students coming out here, and they're going to be using those racks. So they are fully booked that week, but then they become available starting on Saturday the 17th. So this is how you would view your rack availability to see if the rack is available during the time that you want. And then if it is, you can just click right here where it says Rent Now, and then it will become ready for you. And how you can tell that once you've done that is if you go to the rack rentals section once again. Up here it will show you what racks you are currently on. So right now this shows you that I am currently, as of September 11th of 2014 all the way through June 30th of 2017, I have time on a rack. And that's a particular rack I use for demonstrations and classroom demonstrations and things like that. That's why I have it for so long. If you have a rack coming up in the future, you click on right here where it says Upcoming Rentals. And this shows you here that I have another rack that will be assigned. It's going to start today, December 2nd at 3:30 p.m. and it's going to be good for an hour. So I can't get into this right now because it hasn't started the time yet, but I can see this is coming up. And then when that time slot at 3:30 does come available, then it will show up here under the rack rental section as something I can currently get into. And you can see here right now I could cancel it. So if I decide, oh, it turns out I have to go to a wedding that time, I can't really be there. It turns out, I'm going to be sick on that day. I'm going to have my dental appointment on that day. Whatever it is, you can always cancel it. So you're not tied into this. If it turns out that that's going to be a conflict of interest for you, conflicting time, you can cancel it. And the control panel here actually allows you to do one or two things to this rack before it's actually available to you. And I'll talk a little bit about that in an upcoming video in this series. So that concludes this particular video of seeing when racks are available and scheduling some time based on the tokens you have for yourself.